One of the things that I get asked a lot being a military instructor and having spent time in most ground-based vehicles that NATO operates is where in the world I think the best equipment hails from. Even though people questioned my view until the war in Ukraine, we now have proof that the technological edge that the Nordics have over other weapons manufacturers makes a big difference in the end product. Today, we're diving into why Nordic military gear like the CV90, NASAMS, JAS-39, Patria, and Archer systems are so highly regarded on the global stage, and why the relatively small countries in the Nordics are so adept at making such quality military equipment. Being the country with the biggest exports out of all the military equipment produced in the Nordics, we naturally start with Sweden. Their defense industry exported over 1.6 billion euros in 2023 and is expected to increase that in 2024 due to the excellent reputation their equipment has received in the ongoing war in Ukraine. If you were ever into fighter jets in your life, you probably came across Saab and their rich history of making incredible fighter jets. The current star of the Swedish star-studded lineup must be the JS-39E. While it doesn't rely on stealth like most of its modern counterparts, it uses a mixture of electronic interference and a very small radar signature in combination with extremely flexible takeoff and landing requirements. It was designed to operate even if Sweden lost all of its airfields and can take off from gravel roads. Second on Sweden's list of incredible war machines has to be the CV90. When I was deployed in Afghanistan, the Americans used to call it the Scandi Bradley, and we'd often argue about who got to stay in the vehicle, as it had air conditioning, radio, and even Bluetooth speaker integration. Those things aren't really important when it comes to the fighting capability of the vehicle, but it also has over 7,000 days of active service to its name. And after Sweden having donated around 50 to Ukraine in 2023, Ukraine has only been confirmed to have lost one vehicle where it could not be repaired. That speaks to the survivability of the machine in a setting where main battle tanks of all variants drop like flies to mines, drones, and anti-tank weapons. Sweden and Norway are co-producing a new variant of the CV90, which will have integrated drones, anti-tank capability that can be fired while on the move, and enhanced communication systems. To complete my top 3 of what I consider the best Swedish military gear, I'm going to have to go with the Archer self-propelled howitzer. Due to its magazine reloading mechanism, this SPG can be reloaded in 10 minutes. It can fire 3 rounds in 15 seconds and has the ability to stagger shots with different trajectories so that all rounds hit the target simultaneously. Ukrainian crews operating this beast say that it's the most capable counter-battery gun in Ukraine's now long list of artillery. It takes only 14 seconds to deploy its gun and can shoot and scoot faster than almost all other SPGs in the world. When counter-battery firing, this SPG can unload 5 shots on its target and move before the rounds impact, making it almost impossible to hit back with conventional artillery. Before we move on to Norway, I'd like to give honorable mentions to several other pieces of Swedish military equipment. If you've ever been in a NATO army, you've likely fired a Swedish-made AT-4 or NLAW. If you've ever been in a NATO navy, you've likely been in a CB90. And if you've ever worked in air surveillance, you've likely seen the very capable Saab AWACS capability. I could go on, but I'm sure your neighbors would also like some time in the spotlight suites. If you think I should have put something else in my top 3, let me know in the comments below. Now, moving on to Norway. While most people don't think of military might when they think of Norway, the country actually has a defense industry with exports of over 600 million euros. They're famous for making a wide range of missile components, such as the engines in the AMRAAM, Sidewinder, ESSM, and IRIS-T, and produced their very own naval and joint strike missiles, which are among the most advanced and deadly in the world. While not as sexy as a tank, jet, or IFV, the NASAMS system gets Norway's first spot. Produced by Kongsberg in Norway, it is one of the most advanced anti-air systems in the world, and while it has medium range, it has been credited with shooting down a wide range of missiles in Ukraine, which long were claimed to be unstoppable. It is the US system of choice to protect the Pentagon and White House, along with its long-range brother, the Patriot. The mobile launch system mounted on a 4x4 makes it a deadly system to any encroaching jet, and the tally of the system in Ukraine includes everything from missiles to fighter jets. 12 countries operate the system so far, and that is expected to rise to 16 by the end of 2025. Second on Norway's list would have to be the Naval and Joint Strike Missile. Norway's successor to the Penguin missile is a feat of engineering, designed to be able to hug the contours of Norway's fjords. The long-range missiles skim the surface of the ocean, move around objects, and communicate between each other in the air, making it possible to adjust the trajectory, target information, and timing impacts between several missiles after launch. In particular, Germany and the US have placed orders for these missiles for well over 1 billion euros in the last 5 years. Last but not least, on Norway's top 3, it was a tight race between the Skjold corvette and the Hornet nano drone. Due to having been on the amazing Skjold corvette myself some years ago, it would have to be it. It is one of, if not the fastest combat vessel in the world, reaching 60 to 70 knots on water. It is meant to use the fjords of Norway as a rapid reaction route, firing deadly naval strike missiles at much larger potential enemy ships. The technology it has on board is still extremely modern, even if the corvettes were built in the 90s and early 2000s. It can fire 8 naval strike missiles, each of which has enough lethality to take out any ship afloat today and is incredibly hard to shoot down. As for the honorable mentions on Norway's list, the first one will have to be the aforementioned Hornet nano drone. It has been used extensively in many conflicts, including in Ukraine, Israel's war with Hamas, and is a mainstay for many special ops teams, as it is so small and lightweight. I'd also like to mention Kongsberg's automated turret systems, where you can essentially control the weapon systems on any type of vehicle remotely. And lastly, the rocket-assisted 155mm shells produced by Nammo. These shells travel further than almost all other 155mm variants and are becoming increasingly important. Did you think my top 3 for Norway was correct? Let me know in the comments below. Now let's move on to the country out of the 4, with by far the biggest land army. Finland exported military equipment for a total of around 200 million euros in 2023, though these figures are hard to get a hold of, and it is famous for, among other things, its solid APCs and turreted mortar systems. At first place for Finland, I'll have to put the Patria Pasi AMV. If you've ever been involved in Nordic response, or any of the NATO training that goes on in the Nordics, you've likely spent time in this solid AFV's older sibling, the Pasi APC. It has served in conflicts ranging from Kosovo to Iraq and Afghanistan, and is one of the APCs outside of American-made ones that have seen the most amount of active deployment hours. It handles amphibious operations and has a maximum speed of over 100 kilometers per hour on land. The older APC variant is operated by 8 nations, and the newer AFV variant is operated by a further 7. Second on the Finnish list will have to be the extremely robust AMOS and Nemo turreted mortar systems, which can go on both the CV-90 and Patria AMV vehicles. They can fire 12 rounds per minute in static mode and has an option of its rounds, making impact simultaneously like the Archer. It only needs 30 seconds to empty its 14-round salvo in quickfire mode before it can move to the next position, making it an incredibly hard asset to counter. In third place, I've put 2 of the mainstays of the Finnish army, the 2 towed howitzers K-54 and 98. The war in Ukraine has shown how effective towed artillery, like the M777, can be in the right hands, and these 2 Finnish powerhouses are well tested and extremely durable. Patria have started working on a self-propelled variant of this, which will likely be available in the coming years. Other honorable mentions for the Finnish defense industry is the capacity to make great homemade ships for the Navy, make arguably the best sniper rifle in the world, and the fact that they make smart ammunition in Nammo's Finnish factory for artillery and mortars. Is there something you put in the top 3 for Finland that I've not put there? Let me know. Now let's move over to Denmark. While the other countries have a bustling defense industry, there's very little going on in the military sector in Denmark. Denmark does have some dual-purpose industries, which supplies technology like surveillance equipment and aviation parts to both military and civilian units, but it is not really significant. Denmark's government has also decided to once again open the historic Cruden ammunition factory which will jump straight into producing 155mm shells. And they have some decent shipyards which make battleships and combat craft. But that is about it. Now, you may wonder why Sweden, Norway, and Finland excel at making military equipment. The answer is complex. Finland and Sweden have always been at the forefront of technological development. Nokia, Ericsson, Saab, and Volvo are popular brands who have pushed the development of whole industries forward, while Norway's Equinor, Yara, and Hydro are all pioneers within their fields of power generation, oil, and chemical processing. Sweden's Alfred Nobel was the inventor of dynamite, which really says it all. This heritage means that there's an expertise within the population for innovation. For Sweden, the necessity of maintaining a robust military industry has always been paramount. Since losing Finland to Russia in 1809 and maintaining a stance of strict neutrality until 2024, Sweden needed a sufficient deterrent to keep the larger European powers at bay. Finland, on the other hand, required the capability to produce very specific types of equipment, adhering to the restrictive agreements imposed by the Soviet Union after the Winter War. Their goal has always been to equip their army with domestically made weapons, capable of halting any Russian advance. Norway's approach combines substantial investment in research and development, driven by its considerable financial resources, with a need to minimize military losses in any potential conflict. This is further fueled by a desire to avoid a repeat of the surprise German invasion they experienced in 1940. Lastly, the Nordics boast the most developed and happy populations in the world, and their populations persistently score among the top 5 in happiness rating worldwide every year the poll is released. In 2023, all 4 countries were in the top 7. They all also score towards the top end of the Human Development Index. The fact of the matter seems to be that a free and happy people are likely to build enough of a deterrent to preserve this way of life. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out my series on the armed forces of the Nordic countries, as well as detailed videos on specific equipment used by each nation. You'll find links to these videos below. As always, I welcome your feedback as it helps improve my videos and tailor the content to your preferences. I'd also love to hear your suggestions on what topics to cover next. Have a great day, everyone.